It's the Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio, and we're so happy to be joined by the general manager of the LA Chargers, Tom Teleseco, kind of our yearly visit. My experience last year in the playoffs was obviously different than yours. I was coaching a game at Anaheim Sports Center.
Yep.
Okay, I know you've been there before. Yep. Okay, they have 9 courts now, and right before the half, I'm in the cafe, and the game's getting ready to start. I'm like,
feeling pretty good, right?
High-fiving everybody, right? Feeling really good. It's my experience in sports that the losses are a more tangible, vivid memory than the wins. And there were a lot of good wins last year. What has it been like to try and, heal from what happened at the end of the first half and the rest of the game?
Yeah, I think because we talked about it here, I think each player, each coach, myself, everybody handles those situations differently as far as how you want to learn from it moving forward. Some guys just want to wipe it clean like it never happened and move on. Some people can't get out of their head, but you're trying to figure out how we can get past that. It's really, from my position, something that you'll never forget. I mean, there's no way I would ever forget that game. We had a game when I was with the Colts, a playoff game against the Jets. We lost like 42-3, 42-7. I forgot what it was. Never forgot that game, how it played out, but it kind of fueled us moving forward. Will this game fuel us moving forward? I mean, I think it will a little bit. Like I said, at least for me, it's hard to forget about it. But it's part of the growth process. I think we had a good year last year, but didn't finish the way we wanted to. I'd say the core of our team is back from last year, so we have some continuity there. And I think it's good to have a chip on your shoulder as far as how the season ended, and you don't forget how that happened.
Well, you know how everybody reacts, though. When you lose a game like that, it's the fire everybody, especially in today's media. We fire everybody. Everybody has to be fired. That wasn't the case here. Did make a change at offensive coordinator, but outside of that, no wholesale changes across the coaching staff, and didn't cut a bunch of dudes. How do you have that balance of remembering the good and the growth in the process, and not giving into the impulses that I'm sure many people had even inside the building?
Yeah, that's what, when the season ends, you have to take a step back and then look at the whole season, which is hard because you always look at what happened in the last game of the year, and whatever negatively happened, well, that's exactly what we have to fix. Well, we got to look at the whole season and try and play it out from there. So that's what we try to do, try and look at it as a whole. How do we get better? Obviously, we made the change at offensive coordinator. It's not as big a change. We made a change at defensive coordinator with Derek Ansley that's here, who is part of our staff. But again, fresh set of eyes, new vision, new voice. Obviously, Brandon runs the defense, but Derek's been a big part of this. So really 2 new coordinators. Just get back after it. If you feel like we felt like we have the right core group, still had to add a little bit from the outside. Still add some young players in the draft. But if you like the group you have, you feel good about it, and you like the way the coaching staff is coaching these guys, you go back at it again.
Every team has some form of, drama or whatever with the off-season contracts from especially the skill position players, right? There was the Austin thing, and that's been kind of a league-wide conversation more than just a Chargers conversation. Yeah. And then kind of quietly, you got the Justin Herbert contract extension done. What was the offseason like for you in terms of those 2 contracts?
Yeah, well, we're big believers on when it comes to contracts and money, we try and get things done in the offseason. I hate to have them linger into training camp. Now it happens from time to time. But once we kick off in training camp, we want it to be all football all the time. And then when the season ends, whenever that is, in February, we'll get back to the contracts and the money part of it. But we had a plan in this offseason. Obviously, the Justin contract was a pretty big deal. Obviously, a lot of zeros in that contract, a lot of work that goes into it. I think it really helped both sides. It helps him. He gets his money, a couple years early. It's in the bank. He feels stable, ready to go. It helps us for planning purposes, know exactly where we're going to be the next 7 years as we plan out this football team. So that was really important to get done. We came to a resolution with Austin early on, so that's kind of behind us right now, and now just get ready to play football.
Okay, let's get ready to play football. You have most of the core back, but Rashawn Slater wasn't playing last year. Might have played had you continued on in the playoffs.
Yeah.
How does that change the dynamic of what you're trying to do?
Well, have Rashawn back?
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Now, Jamari Saylor stepped in as a rookie, and he played solid football for us at left tackle. We couldn't have gotten the playoffs without how he played. But then last year, when you go back and you kind of see some tape of how Rashawn was playing the year before, he makes a real big difference, run game and pass game. So to essentially add an all-pro left tackle, it's big. So that's a big part of it. And then with Jamar, we get a chance to see him play. We know he can step in and play high-level football as a young player. He's going to slide in at right guard right now. A little bit of a transition for him, but just helps our offensive line.
You know, it's interesting though that and again, maybe this is just me overthinking it. Is that kind of a redshirt year for Rashawn? Doesn't help you last year, but could help you in the future. In one, he got a chance to process so many of the things that he saw, but then improve. Because you know how this guy gets drafted, you throw him into camp, you can't really change his body, you can't really work on. It felt like last year was kind of a redshirt year for him.
I guess it was, but we'd have rather had him. Did not want to redshirt him last year. He doesn't need to be redshirted.
I'm trying to find positives in not having your all-pro left tackle.
This was the positive. We got a chance to see Jamari play where normally we probably wouldn't have seen him play. So that's the silver lining. When you do have injuries, you get a chance for a young player to have an opportunity and see what he can do. But all things being equal, we needed Rashawn last year.
Have you ever – I don't know how your brain works for your schedule. I don't do the win-loss thing because you don't know what somebody's going to look like. But your schedule, you have the best home schedule I've ever seen in regards to that building was already starting to fill up with a higher percentage of Charger fans, but literally every game is a great ticket, right? Like the team that won the fewest games on your schedule coming into SoFi is the Bears. And of course the Bears hadn't been out here in forever. That place will be full of expatriate Bears fans. Have you actually looked at it? I mean, because it's Ravens will bring a big contingency. Obviously, the Cowboys, they think this is their home away from home. Like, you go through, you have an amazing home schedule.
Yeah, and I think you've been to SoFi many times, so it's a great atmosphere in there.
It
really is, and we've got a lot of Charger fans right now, and obviously when those teams come in with, that's normal in this area of the country to have a lot of fans there, but it's just a great atmosphere to play at. So I'm looking forward to it, but I know our home schedule, our road schedule, like we're really just worried about opening day.
Justin, what's the next step for him?
I think we've seen it here at training camp, and even though it's a new offense for everybody, but new for Justin, but just watching his leadership, he just grows maturity-wise, and I think we're seeing a lot more this year as far as him just taking ownership of the offense. I think, when I was in Indianapolis with Andrew Luck, and Andrew was a senior when he came out, so he was a mature college player, just like Justin was when he graduated. It's still different when you're a quarterback and you're young guy in the huddle and you've got offensive linemen that are 30 years old and have kids. It's just a different maturity level. It's hard to lead all the time when you're the young guy there. But now, going into where he is in his career now, he's taking a lot of ownership of the offense, and it's his. He's being more vocal about it, being more vocal with the coach as far as what he likes, what he doesn't like, as they kind of install the offense. So I think that's really the next step for him.
You do have Kellen Moore's a guy who he's been a quarterback in this league. Obviously, I know you scouted him when he was a player, and the Cowboys statistically have had a ton of success offensively. How's it going to be different? What can the layman fan sit at home and go, okay, this is different than what I saw in previous years from the Chargers?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. I mean, the good thing about Kellen is, like, he is flexible. Like, the talent that we have is different than the talent the Cowboys have. So we don't have the exact same style of players at each position. So he's flexible with it. But I do think you're going to see Kellen really use the whole field. Talk about, balanced football. Not so much balance, run-pass balance, more balance as far as field location, where the ball is going, short, intermediate, deep. Who gets the ball, who gets the touches, kind of balance out the touches. We have a lot of skill position players we want to get the ball to. Run or pass, doesn't matter. And I think, in just trying to stretch the field a little bit, I think it's going to help the run game as well. So a little bit of that in the preseason game. As far as the run game and, getting, decisive one cut, get downhill quickly, and but we'll see.
You mentioned a change of defensive coordinator. Obviously, Brandon still runs it. But the defensive line specifically, guys coming off injury, your ability to stop the run, that's been paramount the last 2 years for your team. What will this version of the Chargers look like?
Well, it starts with Joey Bosa and Khalil on the edges. I mean, this is a rush the passer and cover league. That's what it is. Now, obviously, we got to stop the run. Thought we made huge strides last year as far as the interior defensive line, how we played. We've got a couple stars that are hurt right now. They should be back early, hopefully, in the fall. But really, it starts with our edge rushers. And we think we like the depth we have there. Our second-round draft pick from UCLA, Tuli Peloto. I think he could be a really good player for us. Chris Rump. So we have some depth as edge rushers. We have some people that can cover the interior run game. So we've got to figure out who's going to be that combination right now as we get into September.
What's it going to take for the national narrative to change in your team? And we're not blind, deaf, or dumb to it, right? It's like, well, you guys made the playoffs. Look at the progression in wins, right? Year before, you're one play away from making the playoffs. Last year, you make the playoffs, but there's still the Chargers type of thing. What do you think it takes to change that narrative?
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
And win.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's pretty simple. Win, get farther. That's what it is. You got to win consistently. Got to go deeper in the playoffs. Certainly than we did last year. I think that changes a lot of narratives.
This facility now, are you guys going to be here next year, or are you going to be at the new place next year?
So it sounds like the plans are that we'll be at the new facility next year this time, as long as everything kind of goes as planned. They said they're ahead of schedule, so we'll be at the new facility next year.
Did you have some special office demands made where you got your own sort of setup there, or you just I'm the employee, I just show up at work sort of thing?
What do you think as a general manager in this league?
I don't know. You've been here. You've done a pretty good job building this thing. I mean, maybe listen. I want. Do you get a view of the practice field?
I have no idea. I really have no. I was up there for the when we first shoveled the dirt out of the ground, and I haven't seen anything since. When you're coaching and general managing in this league, it's pretty much blinders on, for the season, and I'll worry about that next year.
What do you think the biggest sort of change in the league has been here the last couple years? And I'll throw out, most of the rules have stayed the same, right? So they still benefit the wide receivers. You said it's a rush the passer and cover league. But there's, obviously we know that the value of some running backs have been diminished at the very high end of the ceiling. But what is evolving within the league that we're not talking enough about? Because we talk about all the kind of the raw stats and raw data.
You know what? I mean, this league is covered so well nowadays. I don't know if there's anything that's not being talked about. I mean, obviously the game is very spread out now as opposed to 15 years ago. It really comes from high school football and college football. High school football has been spread out for a while. College, obviously, is very spread out. And that kind of comes into our league as well. So you got 3 and 4 receiver sets. You got to be able to cover people. But that's where the game is. It's just speaking of, and this is kind of a small thing, but it's talking about we're trying to figure out this new kickoff rule this year. That's new. I think it's going to lead to a lot of touchbacks, a lot of ball starting at the 25-yard line. And the kickoff return is one of the most exciting plays in football. However, there is a high injury rate on it with it. So trying to figure out the balance there, but you don't lose that, but still make it safer.
If you could make the rule, what would it be?
We talked about this the whole offseason, and I haven't been able to come up with something that we really like or that anybody likes. I mean, I've seen the XFL or USFL. I've seen that kickoff return. Wasn't crazy about it. I don't know.
What about just increase the roster size and then just go back to the old one, and you got the gunners and you got the, I don't know. It feels like lambs of slaughter, but maybe, I don't know, just because it is such an exciting play.
Yeah, but the flip side is, there's a health and safety part of it, and it's high-level, high-speed collisions on a kickoff return. We got to try and figure out a way to make it safer. Now, we've changed rules over the years as far as you can't have a flying wedge and you can't have, multiple people coming out of a stack to double-team people. So we've got to try and figure out a way. We're not there yet. So we've got this rule this year that you can fair catch it inside. Inside the 20-yard line and take it off the 25. I think you're going to see a lot of that this year. We'll kind of see how it goes from there.
But I don't. Why would you catch it there and not run it? Take a shot.
So, because it's hard to get a kickoff return past the 25-yard line. It really is. So if you look at the top kickoff returners, not very many people even average 25 plus. So if you get a chance, you get an automatic 25-yard line with no penalties. You know how many penalties there are in special teams plays. No penalties, no injuries, no turnovers. I'll take it to 25 and go from there. I think a lot of teams are going to take that free 25 yards.
Okay. Last thing. Will we see any of the starters the rest of the preseason play?
Depends what starters. We got 22 starters. But I think the starters you're talking about will probably be very similar to last year. Probably not. So we'll practice a dual practice with the Saints Thursday, Friday this week. Our ones, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, they're going to get a lot of snaps Thursday and Friday against the Saints, which would be great work. But as far as the preseason game, we're probably trending towards not.
Yeah, that's that yearly dual practice thing, which so many coaches and general managers say it's more valuable than the preseason games. What is it that you like more than the games?
Yeah, so the tempo is a little bit higher than our regular practice because you're going against somebody else. So the tempo level is a little bit higher, not as much as the game, so it's not live. So you can still control it where you don't have people going to the ground, so you can kind of limit some injuries there. you can work on specific situations that may or may not come up in a preseason game. We can say, hey, look, we're going to work on, third and long in this period and work on short yardage. So you can do specific situations. And then, controlling the reps, if either team has any, say some muscle injuries in a certain position group, and hey, we're a little bit short, we just cut the reps down. So you can control a lot of it, but it's still, great tempo, great work against an offensive defense that you haven't seen yet.
And then, obviously, the big concern is the I word, right? Any way to protect against, in those settings, protect against injuries?
No, I mean, you can control a little bit. Like I said, it'll be live, full speed, but not taped to the ground. But, it's football. We have to practice. We have to play. We have to get used to it.
Well, I had this long discussion with Mike Gundy in, I'm going to say February, right? And we were pointing out on how it feels like the injuries are still at a high level, maybe even higher, and yet you're doing all these things in practice to protect players, and that it's the football players have to play football. You have to. There is a certain amount of contact you got to take to kind of build up, right? You got to build up build up the resonance,
callousness,
right?
Yep.
What do you think of the balance of it? Like, have we taken it out of workouts and practice in an effort to protect ourselves, which actually does the opposite of the intention?
We try and find that balance every year, every team. I don't know if there's a perfect way to it. I mean, you go back 20 years ago, it was a true two-a-day practice. You were in pads both days, and we had a smaller roster. We had injuries then. I'd have to. I don't know. I can't really compare the injuries then to now. I'd have to see the numbers. Obviously, now we practice less. We're on pads less. Now our off-season programs are different. Now our off-season programs, the guys are here working out a lot, but you try and find the balance. It's hard to do. There's probably no perfect way to it, but yes, it is playing football. You do have to put pads on. You do have to practice with it, or else you're going to have injuries in games because you're not prepared for it. So trying to find that mix and balance. I think Brandon does a great job with his schedule, being flexible with the players. A lot of it's just listening to the players and see how they feel. They know where their legs are. They know how they feel, so that's a big part of it too.
Obviously, you guys practice on grass here. You play on the field turf, and I think it's 14% more injuries or something on the field turf. But my issue is some of these buildings, nothing you can you can't do it to SoFi. You can't put grass in there. Anything can be done.
Well, I guess if you build new stadiums, you can have try and figure out a way to go grass surface. But the ones that exist now, obviously it'd be hard to flip over a lot of places. Players prefer grass. The injury rates are a little bit lower on grass. It's been pretty constant as far as what that rate is. Now, there was a year last year, 2 years ago, where it was about even, which was great to see. I hope it stays like that. I don't know if it will or not. There's been some great advancements with field turf, but in the end, the players prefer grass.
All right. Now, I said last thing. This is, in fact, last thing. A successful season is what?
Win a lot of football games.
I mean, come on.
Win the last game.
Win the last game?
Win the last game.
In Vegas? That'd be fun, especially considering how it ended 2 years ago in Vegas. To win the last game in Vegas this year, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
whoever wins that Vegas night will be an unbelievable.
Epic.
It will be epic. Tom, congrats on what you've been able to put together. Obviously, we make no bones about it. We root for you here, and we appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy it.